All right, continuing then. Notice once more, moral virtue is a state of character concerned with choice, lying in a mean, that midpoint between the faulty extremes of too much, of excess, and of too little, of deficiency. That midpoint, that place in between, is determined by the rational principle, and by that principle by which the man of practical wisdom would determine it. The question we have to ask at this point is, what is practical wisdom? And in the Ethics, Aristotle begins dealing with that by observing that young men are bad listeners to discussions of political science. Why? And he says for two reasons. One, their passions get in the way. And two, they are inexperienced in the actions of life, which is what discussions of moral virtue are all about. Practical wisdom, or to put it another way, the young, because they are inexperienced, lack practical wisdom. There is an old saying that experience is the parent of wisdom. Experience doesn't guarantee wisdom. There are as many 60-year-old fools wandering around the world as there are 20-year-old fools wandering around the world. But without experience, you cannot acquire practical wisdom. Practical wisdom being knowledge of particulars. Notice again, moral virtue involves doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons, in the right circumstances, involving the right people in the action. Question, can you determine all of those right things in the abstract without, that is, without looking at and relating your judgment to the concrete circumstances in which you are called upon to act? The answer is no. Practical wisdom involves knowledge of particulars. The right thing to do today, for the right reasons, in the right way, change the circumstances tomorrow, the right thing might be a different, involve a different action, done in a different way, for different reasons, in different circumstances. Practical wisdom is knowledge of particulars.
But you could get practical wisdom from reading things. I mean, not just experiencing things, wouldn't you say?
Aristotle's answer to that question is that you can get a general sense of what the moral virtues are, of what practical wisdom is involves, but that there is no substitute for seeing it in action. I mean, take any of these moral virtues, for example. Take the first of the moral virtues, courage. Courage, like every other moral virtue, is opposed by two vices. The vice of excess, and Aristotle calls this rashness. The rash man is never afraid of anything. Faced with the most fearful things, the rash man experiences no fear. On the other side, there is the coward, the man who is afraid of everything. In between is the courageous man. Now, we can talk about courage in the abstract, but the best way to understand what courage is to see what? Is to see courageous men and women doing courageous things. That makes it more real than any book learning or book study we can apply to the matter. Questions, comments? Now notice the order in which the moral virtues are presented. First, there is courage. Then there is moderation, which deals with food, drink, and sex. Then there is liberality and magnanimity. These are the two virtues that deal with money. Then there is ambition and pride, the two virtues that deal with public honors and public offices. This is followed by good temper, the virtue dealing with anger. This is followed by friendliness, truthfulness, and ready wit. These are the virtues concerned with social intercourse. And finally, the last and the 11th of the virtues is justice. And there are again a number of different subspecies within the species justice. There's distributive justice, rectificatory justice, reciprocity and exchange, and finally, justice entire or complete justice. There is a philosophic premise. We turn to the second of the intellectual or dianoetic virtues I'd like to say a couple of things about, namely philosophic wisdom. Whereas practical wisdom is knowledge of particulars, philosophic wisdom is knowledge of universals, knowledge of that which is true about man, as man, in all times, in all places, and in all circumstances. The judgment of philosophic wisdom that is responsible for the order in which these 11 moral virtues are presented is that man is by nature a political animal. What is meant by the expression, man is by nature a political animal? Anybody? You hear that statement, what does it mean to you?
I guess it depends on how you define political.
How do we? I define it as 6- and 7-year-old children sitting around the table eating chocolate cake and ice cream. That ain't the political, is it? No. The word polis, this is the ancient Greek word from which we get political society, politics, politician, political, politically, politic. It names something. What does it name? What is Aristotle looking at when he says that man is by nature the political animal? Pardon me?
Born that way by nature?
Yeah, that by nature man is the political animal. When you look at it this way, outside of the world of fiction, of Robinson Crusoe, of Tom Hanks, and Castaway, do we ever find people living apart from government and laws, outside of the political community? The answer is what?
Yes.
No. This is universal. Different people at different times, in different places, in different circumstances, live under different kinds of governments that make different kinds of laws, that honor certain things, dishonor other things. But the universal experience of man outside of the worlds of fiction is that man is a political animal. Always and everywhere, man lives in the polis, or the political community. Now, the political community is a partnership. As one learns from Book 1 of Plato's Republic, that section where Socrates and Polemarchus agree to become partners. They form a political partnership. And the partnership that they form is a political partnership because they form it to defend justice. As James Madison writes in Federalist 51, justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been and ever will be pursued until it be obtained or until liberty be lost in the pursuit. Madison, in saying that justice is the end of government, doesn't mean that it's the final concluding chapter. He means it's the purpose. It is the thing for the sake of which government and political societies exist. Now, justice involves, if you look at the first type of justice, distributive justice, justice involves distributing scarce goods. I repeat, justice involves distributing scarce goods. If there was no such thing as scarcity, we would not, as human beings, have to struggle with the problem of justice. But because of the fact that certain things are scarce, we have to confront, and as best we can, grapple with and try to solve the problem of justice. Well, what are these scarce things that it is the business of government and the business of civil society, of the polis, to distribute, and to distribute fairly? There is a simple rule of justice. Please put this in your notes. Justice consists in giving to others what is owed to them. Justice consists in giving to others what is due to them. Justice consists in giving to others what is fair for them. Justice consists in giving to others what is fitting and proper for them. Now, saying all of these things doesn't solve the problem of justice. I mean, look at the questions that are involved here. What is due to others? What is owed to others? What is fair for others? What is fitting and proper for others? Those are huge questions.